Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me, Natasha Nandini, in conversation with people who know stuff. Today, I'm talking to a yoga teacher who's really managed to carve a place for herself in the world of yoga retreats. Malva Ostrowska, and you might know her as Malva Yoga, has run 50 successful retreats since 2016 and has agreed to join me to share some of her wisdom on this subject. Whether you're a retreat owner, organizer, or someone who's just looking to go on one, I'm sure there'll be something for you. Malva, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you so much, Natasha. I'm very happy to be here and to connect like this. It's amazing. So, yeah, let's embark on this journey into the
Yeah.
retreat.
I mean, it's just so obvious to me that you're passionate and you love what you do and you're great at it. But actually, before we begin, I think it's important that people know that you're also a very talented artist. So I'm going to ask her if she will give us a few of her images to show you. And if she agrees, you'll be seeing them now. And if not, you'll just be seeing one of us.
Yes, so for sure, this is also my background. I actually graduated in visual communication and graphic design. With the specialization in illustrations art. And these days, actually, my what used to be my full-time job, which was a graphic designer, switched into being more like a freelance hobby. And since 2011, more or less, I really shifted into being just a full-time yogi.
Well, your artwork is beautiful, so I will be putting links up for that below as well. Okay, so let's talk about what inspired you actually to lead retreats. I mean, the yoga world has so many different avenues you can go down.
Yes. So for me personally, the first connection I had with a yoga retreat, it was not actually a yoga retreat as such, it was a Vipassana experience,
Mm.
which I went to attend in Darmanero, close to Barcelona. And I did that when I finished college in Dublin. After 5 years of studying, I felt like I'm reaching a complete burnout and I just needed to stop and press a pause button on my life. And also finishing such a big thing like college, I really felt like I need to just see what I'm about. And of course, this urban sanctuaries, going to yoga classes, going to meditation centers, that was always a part for me of my weekly schedule. But it was just like, okay, I go there to recharge and to reset, but I felt like I really need to take longer time in that kind of
Mm.
experience. So I went to the Vipassana and that was like amazing. That for me was a big change if in like shifted my perspective on what I want to do in life, what I'm about. It just was this extended period of time where I could really sink into everything what is inside instead of all the time going out, being out and being stimulated and just closing your eyes and going in, diving in finally.
Mm.
After such a long time, I was like, okay, this is it. This is what I needed. And then I thought, okay, well, I wanted more of this in my life. And when I moved full time to Barcelona, I started to go more often to yoga retreats.
Well, I mean, that's the great thing about yoga retreats is that you can dive in and you do learn so much. So, well, that's lovely. And we're very happy that you did decide to take that avenue. Well, let's talk about, the retreat process now, if you don't mind. So, I mean, you've said that selecting a retreat location is more than just aesthetics. Can you
Yes.
can you explain what you look for and how you choose a suitable venue?
So if I can, I prefer to go to the place first and always like, scout a location, check out how it feels to be there. Because it's oftentimes that maybe on a photograph it looks beautiful, then you arrive to the place and even a five-star hotel
Mm.
or has this kind of a sense of spirit or soul, or it just feels like empty space. Just beautiful but empty. I don't know how to really explain it, but it's just a feeling that you get when you arrive to a certain space.
Yeah.
In some places, maybe they lack, let's say, amazing comfort, but it just has that feeling of, wow, this is going to be amazing to practice here. Sometimes could be that even the yoga space is this space. The rooms are okay, But in the end, this is for me the most important, that where we're going to practice, once you're going to like spread yourself on that floor or listen to the birds around, on be in the, it's just different to practice on the rice fields in Bali than it is to practice in Austrian mountains or in Polish landscape. So every place has also a vibe.
Mm. And would you say that you have, I mean, of course, you've mentioned that the yoga space is the most important, but are there like must-haves other than that? Must-haves?
Yes, so I realize that the must have for me is that the beds can separate.
You know, right. I was going to say, for me, comfortable beds, you know, because I've slept on the floor so many times.
Yeah.
I don't mind that, but yeah, separating beds, yeah.
Yes. So because oftentimes places have double beds and they're like connected, and many people that come to the retreats, they come alone as well.
Mm.
Actually, for me, this is like the most common question I get from people is like, can I come alone to the retreat? And it's like, yes, that's the best. To come alone is the best. Of course, it's great to bring your partner or to bring a friend, but when you can come alone, that's the best, because then you're just on your own, free flowing, you're like a blank canvas, and you can really take that time for yourself. And there's not like maybe a projection of who you are from outside.
Yeah.
And this is so like also great to recharge like that and to meet yourself in that space. And beds can provide that as well. Because if you have a room, and especially if it's like a venue that is a bit limited, because they say, yes, you can have 16 people. But then I'm like, okay, how many rooms you have? And they're like, 8 double beds. I'm like, well, that's high. That's very difficult to have 16 people because many people want to come alone and then they take a bed already for themselves, unless you can actually separate them. So this is a very down to earth approach, but it is important when you're planning a retreat.
For sure, for sure. And what about red flags? I mean, something that you absolutely say no.
So bathrooms as well, because it happened to me sometimes that we'll have a top location, but then if you let's say have a room that it's a beautiful bedroom, but then people that stay in this venue have to share a bathroom, and then you out of a sudden have 16 people and only 3 bathrooms, it's difficult. It's
Mm.
difficult. So it's important for me that everyone feels comfortable. Same with the yoga spaces. You here, for example, on Mallorca, I must say they're not very much yet in that mindset of what means to have a good venue for a yoga retreat. So you come to a place, you say, okay, when are we gonna, where can we practice yoga? And they show you like a piece of grass. I say, here.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, no. What if it's rain? What if it's raining? And I say, it doesn't rain. I'm like, how? What do you mean? It's not gonna rain. It could rain. And then where are we gonna practice? So it's very important for me that it is really a place that is tailored to yoga retreats. Also, you can really feel if a place is really for yoga retreats or if it's just a venue for anything.
Mm.
Because if they have weddings, if they have events that, for example, can have alcohol in them, it's just a different vibration. And you kind of feel it when you come to the venue that, okay, there was maybe a party last week. Now there's going to be, they want to do a yoga retreat. Later, they're going to do a wedding. So I try to, yeah, I always try to check what is actually this place about.
Mm,
This
that's
is
good
also important.
information. For sure.
And that if they have also yoga equipment, because not often times I can travel with my car and pack all the yoga mats and yoga blocks there. And this is super important because not everybody wants to take their yoga mat on a plane. And it also looks different if, you know, you have equipment all from one brand or from like everyone has the same block, the same strap, the same yoga mat, cushion. And it's different if like you don't have those things and everyone just brings their own stuff. So yeah, important that the venue has yoga equipment.
Mm. And so, okay, what would you say is the overall experience that you aim to create for participants?
Well, of course, the whole like, circumstances that come together to create a good experience are important. The essence is that they can really drop into that inner space where they don't need to think about food they need to create. They don't need to think about basically when the moment they step on a plane and they take a flight to wherever destination, they can also just disconnect when they arrive to the place of the retreat. I'm very happy that my students, they don't even, I don't need to tell them, but they actually, most of them decide to just switch off their phone and they say, okay, this is just time for me,
Mm.
which is nice because they actually arrive with that kind of a craving to just stop everything and pause. And I just want that they can only focus on what is happening inside of them, that they don't need to take care of anything. And I always say to them that everything is optional. So if somebody comes and they're like really burn out and they just need to sleep, it's also okay. Just sleep. Maybe day three you're gonna come to yoga mat, but it has to feel like you coming there to recharge. I would prefer that they finish the retreat and they feel deeply recharged. That then they feel like, okay, now I need another holiday because I just put myself into a pretzel and everything is hurting me, and I come home and I can hardly make it to work on Monday morning. That's not the idea. So I think there are retreats that offer that kind of experience, which is for more like yogis, acrobats, body movers, that they have this drive to, learn a handstand or do some crazy things in yoga. And then there are retreats that are like more about wellness.
Mm. Overall, yeah, I see what you're saying. And also, you taking care of everything means that they have much more to be able to soak up all the opportunities for transformation for them, because um, everyone's place within that, where am I on that path, is different. They're
Yes.
approaching it also from a different angle. So that's lovely, yeah. And what about local culture and traditions? Do you sort of try and incorporate those into the experience?
Yes, so for example, I feel like every time I create a retreat or I think where it's going to happen, there's always this element of incorporating the retreat into a local culture, whether it's like about the food or what is happening in that moment of time in that particular place. I remember doing a retreat in Bali, and that was during the Balinese New Year, which is called Nyepi. And we created these huge structures during the retreat from papier mâché, from like paper, and then we walked and carried them with the local people into the streets, and they were just like doing a nice parade with them. And then there was also a whole day of silence where the whole island stops. There's even no flights into the island because they believe you have to be very quiet that time, because otherwise the demons that are flying over the world will come to your house. So everyone is quiet. There's no radio on, no television. And that day we also did a whole day of silence. We actually never haven't even practiced. We just everyone was just quiet, and so that was nice to adapt that traditional part into our retreat as well. And then also when I do retreats like in places like Ibiza, like people come to Ibiza and they have this idea that it's just a party island, and it is, and it has a very big element of that kind of free spirit um, flow. So then I would take maybe the participants on a Sunday afternoon when we finish the retreat to Benira's beach, and there is a huge drumming circle. So then we have a picnic there. We just bring the food with us and stay on the beach for the sunset. And then it's that kind of experience of Ibiza.
That's lovely. It's beautiful. I think I want to come on one of your retreats. So, okay, how do you balance the physical yoga practice with, say, mental and spiritual aspects?
Right. So after going to so many retreats and also organizing them, I really realized that it's important to find that balance, because maybe when you start doing retreats, you have like, wow, I have so many things I want to offer. But I learned over time that it's like, no, you can just do, for example, this retreat is for that particular concept, and we're gonna focus on this retreat is going to be about that, and combining those elements like the location, the things that I can offer on that retreat. It's also beautiful for, let's say, my clients to have that kind of a journey. So it's like, okay, if we go with Malva to Sicily, this is going to be the experience. We're going to have really this Italian experience. If we go to Ibiza, it's going to be Ibiza experience. If we go to, I don't know, Thailand, it will be different. So it's for me important to see like, okay, how can I balance, what are we going to do there, add all these elements together into the retreat, and then as well the practice slash why are we even there, what are we doing there. So over time I started to bring also elements of collaborations with people that are maybe in that island or that place in the planet, and then inviting them to come and give us an experience. So, for example, in Ibiza, I work with a local shaman, and she brings element of shamanism and transformational breathwork session, which is really interesting. And because she's there for now 12 years living in Ibiza, she really feels like she's really from there, and it's something that I can't bring into the retreat. So then I invite her and she brings that element. And what it does is, one thing is the physical practice, but I really feel like over time, what is important for me is to know what are my students coming with, really, like what is inside this emotional backpack that they bring and that they want to unpack when they get to the retreat. And that sometimes happens not on a physical level or physical practice, but when we actually go into more subtle part of the experience. So whether it's a breathwork practice, whether it's a sharing circle, an exercise in couples where they do, exchange their experiences, and when we talk, and everyone takes different time in opening up. So, and there is a space and time for everything. So maybe you wouldn't talk about your personal things when we're having dinner. It's not a time for that to out of a sudden offload something that is really deep within. But on a sharing circle, yes, there is a space for that, or a cacao ceremony. So this elements of the retreat are also important, I feel.
Okay, so why don't you walk us through a typical day at one of the retreats from beginning to end?
Yeah, so we wake up in the morning, and always at the beginning of the retreat, I propose something called Mona, which is like the noble silence. So I say, okay, in the morning, just don't think about anybody, just be on your own, in your own space. And it's funny because we have this automatic thing of saying, hola, good morning, hello, but just drop it. You don't need to do it. And in the morning, I also advise them not to eat or drink, because before the practice, better not to go into like digestive mode. But if somebody really needs to, because we have different customs, we're used to different things, it's important that they know that there is food or there is drink, so they can always go and the to use it if they need to. We start a practice at 7 in the morning with meditation. So the first few days, maybe I'll do a guided meditation, especially for beginners, that they're just like, okay, I close my eyes, what I'm supposed to do here. But later I even tell them, actually, if I'm talking to you, you're not really meditating, you're just following my voice. So at the first few days, we would do the guidance. But then once they know what they need to do in meditation, then I would just say, okay, we just sit quiet now for half an hour. After that, we go to practice. So we have the physical practice, the yoga practice. We finish around 9 o'clock or 9:30, and then we have a cold dip if there is um, swimming pool around, or if I have a river or a lake. And this is of course optional, but it's only for the people that are like, okay, now I want to have this, energy boost for the rest of the day. We have a green smoothie after that, and about an hour to digest the green smoothie and to prepare for our big brunch. So around 11, 12 o'clock, we have the big brunch, which I believe is a very nice way, because it's like the digestive fire is like really strong at that time. So we have our biggest meal of the day. And then everyone is kind of free to do something what they want, whether it's a hike, whether it's a walk, laying in the hammock and reading a book, taking a massage. And about 2 o'clock, we have a theory session, which could be, I call it theory session, but it could be exactly this, like a workshop or something where they don't need to move anymore. We just go more into the mental stuff. And at 3, we have a little snack. Usually it's or an energy ball or some hummus with like vegetable steaks or something just to nibble. Um, then at 4, we do a practice, but more chilled. So in the morning, I call them solar practices. In the afternoon, lunar practices. So it's more about like, some people call it yin yoga, restorative practice, or a workshop where we kind of like break down the parts and a bit more explanation. And after that, we have at 7 o'clock dinner. And later, if we have a fireplace or something like this, we can chill by fire, have like I call it bedtime stories. And that's it. We go to bed around 9, 10 max.
You mentioned cold dips. I mean, you've been doing them for some years now. How's that going?
Yes, I love it. I must say, I love it. And even before there was this big boom for Wim Hof, I actually just naturally drifted into that habit because after having twins, I really faced a period of being in my so-called black hole. I actually hit like a rock bottom depression, and that really helped me to get out of it because coffee was just not enough anymore to get me going. I had no time for practice. I hardly had time to do anything. And first 6 months were really hard. And that cold shower was the only thing that was like immediately all my cells would just wake up and I'll be like, okay, I can do this. And then it just stayed like that. And yeah,
Well, you'll be happy to know that I've also started taking cold dips, but in the sea, just round the corner. And you're right, it's just so invigorating. It's like you're a completely new person when you come out the other side.
it's addictive.
Well, I haven't got to the addictive stage yet, but yes, I'm really loving it. So,
Yeah.
okay, what type of yoga styles do you practice or do you typically include?
Well, what I practice is not necessarily what I teach on the retreats.
Uh-huh.
I feel like my practice is, it's just, well, I practice with you or I practice with a bit more like different stuff. And then what I teach is what I feel is the best for most of the people most of the time. So I just want to go into the safe place and gentle place and place of nourishment. And it's a little bit, I think I see it like a playing an instrument.
Mhm.
So for me, it's important, like if this is my instrument, and somebody comes as a beginner and they're like on a stage of like beep 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 beep, I'm not going to
Yeah.
tell them, okay, let's go now symphony playing, because that's like where I am in my practice after so many years. But like they need to go to the beginning part. And then another thing is that I think in the yoga industry there is this like, oh, yoga is for good for everybody, just come. And then for the teachers, that's so difficult because we have this huge classes of, maybe sometimes in Barcelona, I was teaching 30 people in the room. And then it's just like you have people that you see for 4 years, twice a week, and and whole bunch of beginners you're never gonna see again because it's like tourist yoga. And yeah, let's make a practice for everybody. So for the retreats, I have sometimes the same problem that there'll be people that already practice for a long time and then beginners,
Mm.
and you want to have everybody happy.
Yeah.
So what I developed is this kind of practice where I tell them, okay, we're gonna do this, this, and this. And then at some point I might say, option number one, stay here. Option number two, go deeper. Option number three, you can even do this if you want.
Now, there's always a problem with that because, especially with the beginners, because the beginners, they haven't necessarily heard that you've said, you stay here. And they all somehow think that they have to be doing the hardest thing. And that's really difficult to sort of get them to understand that it's not necessary.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the retreats, it's also, you also see for some people 2 practices a day, it's already a lot because they're
Yeah.
not used to. For some other people, that's like, hey, can we do more? So it's challenging. It's challenging for the teacher to find that balance, especially if the retreat is like open to all levels.
Mm, mm.
So
But you also have someone who helps you, right? Come.
yes, I
Yeah.
have usually an assistant. Um, but yeah, just to answer your question, so what I teach is it's a vinyasa practice,
Mm,
but with the elements of synergy yoga practice, synergy method. So synergy is like let's say a bridge between yoga, like traditional yoga, modern physiotherapy, and elements of Chinese martial art. This is how um, it's the easiest way to kind of like explain. Some people say, oh, it looks like a dance. So it's kind of like enriched vinyasa, and where we do a lot of like also movements that are like spirals. So you feel like the muscles really have this feeling of like wrapping around the bones. And the idea is that you can really feel challenged. Meanwhile, you're actually doing, let's say, simple things.
mm,
So avoiding any possible way for students to get injured, not doing anything where I feel like they tensing, because that's the for me over time what I see, the kind of interesting part is where is this tilting point between I'm active or I'm tense. And when they tense, that the energy can't really flow because then they're just tensing. And it's also like you can see it in the breath. And that's where you see, okay, advanced student is in this it's in this difficult position, but they're relaxed internally.
Mm.
Which the beginner would go into advanced part, but they would tense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is somewhere where I'm like, okay, for me it's important that after practice they feel nourished, they feel that the nervous system is relaxed, that the mind is calm, and then it's for me better to achieve that through a more simple but still deep practice, but nothing too crazy where they can potentially overtense and stress themselves.
And over time get depleted.
Yeah.
So what kind of people generally attend your retreats? Who come?
So usually it's people from actually all parts of Europe, and also sometimes I get even further destinations like US and Canada, and they all have one thing in common, that they're usually very successful people in their daily life. They have big companies or they work on a high level like stress environments, and what they have in common is that they really know how to operate in this kind of like, let's say, business world. But then they come to the retreat and they're like, oh, I really need to take a time for myself now. They're usually kind of like people that also know what they want. They don't need to be convinced about anything. They're like, okay, just tell me where, I'm booking and I'm coming. And that's it. They don't need to ask more questions. And they just arrive and they just need to stop. They need to stop and take this time for themselves. They actually looking for a quiet place to recharge, but they just want to know that everything will be good quality, that the yoga will be good quality, that the place will be nice, that everything will be taken care of, the food will be delicious. And they're like, okay, just I know that it's all going to be good. And this is for them important. Yeah.
And so, I mean, what's your hope that they take away with them, take back with them?
So for sure, I mean that they feel relaxed after the retreat, they feel recharged. Um, also that maybe these things that I incorporate into the retreat, like the cold dips, like the green smoothie, like eating, for example, vegetarian diet, for some people, what I consider normal, for some people, they're like, whoa, it's been first time in my life that for 5 days I just ate plant-based food.
Mm.
And they already feel like, I feel my digestion is so different. Like I go to the bathroom every day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's normal for me.
Yeah.
So what we consider normal for some people in the modern world out there, that's like new. And if they also realize that they can feel so comfortable around others, if they can talk about their personal things with others, also just this kind of openness. And you can feel it also when people arrive to the retreats. If they already did more than one retreat, they arrive and they might straight away on the opening circle say, so why are you coming to the retreat? And they'll be like, let's say a person that is a little bit more shy, they will say, oh, I'm going to retreat because I need to relax. And then another person that already went to a few retreats, they might say, I come to the retreat because right now I just finished a long-term relationship. I'm totally heartbroken. I just need to take time for myself.
Mm.
And they have this, let's say, ease at, just saying what is happening. And bit by bit, I feel like at some point on the retreat, also, they get to that point where they feel safe to actually be who they are and to feel comfortable with themselves. So then when they go into their daily life, they see also maybe that kind of a contrast of, okay, what was happening on the retreat? How was my nervous system? How I was feeling? How are my cells, my body? Could I sleep deeper? Could I relax more? Was my breath deeper? And then they come to their default world and say, okay, maybe there are certain things I want to now incorporate into my default world. So I want to have that taste of what I've tasted on the retreat, and now I want to bring it into my daily life. Some people quit smoking after the retreat. Some people do big shifts, even like changing their professions, their work environment, because they say, yeah, I really felt I had this contrast of how I could feel on the retreat. Then I go into my daily life and I say, no, I don't want to continue like that any longer.
I think it's also just good to make people aware that the changes might not stick the first time, but small changes in the long term become big changes.
Yeah.
Do you have any memorable stories that you'd like to share?
Well, one of this, so yeah, I have a few stories, but one of the funny stories that I actually have one baby that came from my retreat.
Oh, really? That's
And
hard.
the couple that matched on the retreat, they're till now together, and the baby is called Alva. So my name is Malva, and they tested
Ah,
him out, and they called her Alva.
that's
And
lovely.
I met her like 2 years ago. She's adorable. And so this is a funny story. Another story is that there was a mom and daughter that came to a retreat in last year, May, on Mallorca, and they turned out to have like 4 hotels in Sicily. And after the retreat, they decided to build a yoga space in their one of their hotels. And
Mm.
actually, now in October, I'm going to do a first retreat there.
Oh,
And
lovely.
so this is super nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, these are
really
the
nice.
kind of things when you say, "Wow, it's so cool to see that this could be the fruits of retreats."
For sure, for sure. And what about some of the biggest challenges that you face when you're organizing a retreat?
Right. So biggest challenges, first of all, it depends also on the location. So I learned it's very different to run a retreat in a place that is a retreat center.
Mm.
So normally at the end of the year, I do this big one in Lila, which is in south of Spain. And I love doing the retreat there because everything is taken care of by the retreat center. And I just arrive and teach. Anybody that has a problem because the shower is not working, the toilet is not flushing, there is no electricity in my room or whatever, they just go to the reception, they talk to the reception, and I don't need to even think about it. While when I organize retreats in, for example, private locations like private villa and Ibiza, there could be a problem, and it happened in the past that I'll be like teaching, out of a sudden everyone is downward dog, and my chef from the kitchen through the window is showing me no power, no power.
Oh,
And she
no.
can't make a smoothie, she can't make a breakfast. And I'm the only connection because I hire her externally. I'm the only connection that knows the owners of the villa. So then everyone is in downward dog. I'm with my phone, like, hey, please, we have no power. And they are Italians. They're completely on the other side of the island. Yeah, okay, we come later to check it out. Like, no, you cannot come later now. We have no breakfast. And it's just stressful. So I learned that I need to have always an assistant because in situations like this,
Mm.
I just can't. Like, I need to teach. I cannot be with my head that we have no power in the house.
For sure.
But you learn on your mistakes and things that you didn't even take into account.
Yeah.
Later, you realize, okay, wow, this is really important to keep in mind when you're organizing a retreat.
And would you be willing to share a little bit about your process? Like what is involved actually, how far in advance you plan, things that yoga teachers who, as experts in yoga, they may not necessarily be experts in organizing retreats.
Mm.
And they may not be aware of all the things that go into the process.
Okay, so I like to compare doing your retreat like a good risotto. So imagine you want to make a good risotto, like you need your
Really?
setup.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And if you don't have your setup, what's the chance that the risotto is going to turn out good? Not such a big chance, right? And if you know you have all your ingredients and on top, like give yourself time, take a glass of wine and then enjoy the process. Because if not, it's just not going to turn out so good. And you're just going to be stressed. So important thing is that you have time to set up everything and also like a time for yourself to promote it as well. So for me, I book some locations 1 year in advance and I start a promotion like really honestly now half a year in advance. Because for example, my clients that are like working in this companies and stuff like this, they need to know, they already now asking me for the dates for 2025 because they need to secure their free time at work. So if I don't have my calendar ready for them, they will just book another retreat or they will plan other holiday or whatever, because they know already what dates they need to take off for their yearly schedule. And then also many locations get booked out super quick. So this is important to give yourself time and to also prepare, let's say, your like you have your marketing campaign. And to do that well, you need time as well. So first I do always like let's say organic reach. I just start to talk about it on my social media and prepare like this, like warm up my clients. And then after that, if you see, okay, this period of time already passed, I have this many bookings, okay, now I'm gonna go with the paid promo. And then how long time I give myself for the paid promo. And this is all a little bit about the psychology of marketing as well, which I learned over time. You know, people might see your ad and they're gonna see your ad, see your ad, see your ad, but at some point they're gonna click it. But if they only see it one time, the chance is not as high. You need to see something few times to actually start to be intrigued by it. And right now, with all these tools of artificial intelligence and Facebook ads and all this, there's so much out there. So it really needs to filter well, like what are your potential clients? And I have to say, with amount of now doing 9 retreats a year, most of my clients maximum that they kind of like can come to, it's about 3 retreats. That's like my top clients, and they come to 3 retreats, and it's like wow during the year. But that's why I needed to really find the ways to start being more out there and to expand more my business globally, let's say, so that more people can know that there is an offering like that. So I do use like paid ads. This is really important.
Okay, and if you could, what would you outsource?
All the admin work. All the admin work, because it's so much time. It's so much time with. I'm still currently looking for assistant, but the problem is that once I put it on my social media that I look for assistant, I got approached from many yoga teachers that kind of would like to learn how to do this. But yeah, for me, actually, it's really important to find somebody that likes yoga, but it's really good in all this digital stuff. Yeah. So all the admin, what I mean by admin is like doing all the spreadsheets, going behind the clients, reminding them about the outstanding payments. Because, you know, even if I write an email, it doesn't matter how many times I'm going to write it. They're like, till the 1st of September, you have to still pay your outstanding balance. From 20 people, maybe 5 do it. The rest, they just don't even look the email. And then you kind of have to go behind these people and keep reminding them. But with the amount of so many retreats, for me, it's just like so much work sometimes.
But
Yeah.
knowing you, you're very good at that digital side of stuff, and you would already have all the templates prepared for whoever assistant you employ.
Yes.
So if there is anyone out there, do get in touch with Malva if you are interested in this opportunity.
Yes, please. I'm still looking for my digital angel.
I'm sure they're out there. So yoga, I mean, yoga is now an industry, yeah. So since you started, what are the changes you've noticed?
Well, exactly what we just mentioned, the digital side of yoga. Because back in the day, I realized actually my generation is the last generation on this planet that grew up without digital, like without social media. We're gonna be the last ones. After us,
Yeah.
it's only, yeah. So this is the biggest shift, because back in the day, I remember to find a good teacher, it would be like more a word of mouth and like talking to the people that practice for a long time, going to yoga school, and then, you know, climbing the ladder of like interest and being investigating, and then
Yeah.
getting to the kind of like the best and the yoga legends. Now, with the amount of stuff that is everywhere and blink, 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 flashy, it's super hard, I think, for good teachers to get out there. And especially if they don't have that kind of, um, if they're not up to date with all these novelties of Instagram, TikTok, and all that stuff, it's just super hard. So I
But
see amazing teachers and just struggling with this kind of side of business.
well, I mean, it's also an oxymoron in a way. Like if you have a deep practice, it's very easy to go internal and not be out there. So, I mean, that's partly why I'm doing these conversations, because there are many teachers that I want what they have to be shareable with everyone out there. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, that digital shift is probably the biggest change. Mm.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for someone looking to start their own yoga retreats? Specific.
Yes. I think for me, the first and biggest advice would be just to go on retreats.
Mm.
Go as many retreats you can. If you can't because it's too expensive and I know how it is to be there when you're a yoga teacher and you're not getting paid so much, especially in Spain, and you still want to go on amazing retreats, reach out because there are yoga teachers that would provide a space or having an assistant, and it's just about asking, and you might be lucky, and then you can go to retreats and start to be more like a assistant on the retreats first, and basically just seeing what are the dynamics of the retreat. Yeah, so that later in when you start to do your first ones, you already prepared and you already know what people might be looking for on the retreat. For me, that was my journey. And at the beginning, also maybe pair up with somebody because it could be that the responsibility is just going to overwhelm you. And then people can feel like, look, your clients can feel like, whoa, it's just, she's just running around super stressful. Like, that's not the vibe you want to create on your retreat,
Mm.
that you're stressed about everything. It's important that you can really expand and relax your nervous system on the retreat because they need to feel that you totally on it and you're totally ready to teach and not thinking about that we have no oat milk.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
mean, this really happened on one of my retreats. We were on a very remote location in Mallorca, and that was like one of these little details that I didn't clarify with my chef. And she was thinking that I provide all the coffee. I thought she's bringing the coffee, and then by the time in the morning, she was like, "Yeah, where's the coffee?" I'm like, "What do you mean? Where's the coffee? I don't know." Out of a sudden, it's more morning of the first day of the retreat, and we have no coffee.
So how did that pan out?
I was just very, I said, now I have to go to teach." And finally, somehow, her boyfriend took a motorbike because he was helping there. He drove to get the coffees and stuff. But it's just important in this kind of situations that you don't freak out or that it doesn't overwhelm you. I think if I would do it in the very first part of my yoga journey and yoga retreat, I would just completely, it would be too much for me. But in that moment, I was like, okay, happens, life happens.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean,
And
yeah, for sure. That's why, I mean, for me, Varanasi is slightly different when I take people there, but it's, it's really good to have other people who can sort of help you on speed dial, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
And how do you see? Hmm?
Yes, also one time I wanted to say I got really sick on a retreat, and I think I actually had COVID. And
Oh,
of course, like I was dying in bed with fever, and I
yeah,
was so happy that I had assistant because in that moment they really could step in and basically teach.
yeah.
Was able to teach. So this is really important to or have a co-teacher that leads the retreat with you, or to have an assistant. It happened to also us when I was doing a retreat in Sahara Desert, that two of my co-teachers got super sick. They couldn't teach for a whole week. And so I basically ran the whole retreat by myself. Even the three of us were doing it together.
Wow.
But they got very, very sick in the desert. So yeah, it's just I think it's really important to go or assistant or co-teacher.
A little bit of a backup plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you see the future of yoga retreats as a concept and a package evolving?
Well, now there's a complete boom with yoga retreats. They're everywhere, which I guess comes from the point of people wanting to have this kind of like experiences because to be honest, it's just so comfortable. Like thinking about, for example, going to, let's say, Ibiza and then needing to create that whole experience for yourself, meaning finding a place where you're going to sleep, renting a car, finding 2 yoga classes a day, good food. I mean, you would, first of all, spend so much more money. Second, you might not stay in this amazing, beautiful locations like a private villa or something. You just get a crappy Airbnb for that price. And then on top, you eat probably just whatever food, but maybe not this kind of like delicious vegan food. So I see a yoga retreat like a super package, especially for people that work and they don't want to be thinking about anything else when they go on their holiday. So I can understand why yoga retreats now became so popular in our kind of like modern times. Um, but maybe the danger of it I see is something like the yoga retreat becoming just a yoga holiday. Like we're gonna do some snorkeling, yoga, we're gonna do
Yeah.
like climbing and yoga, we're gonna do wine tasting and yoga. We're gonna do there is like so much. I don't know if this is good or if this is bad, but this is what I'm starting to see. That is like everything yoga, surf and yoga, you know.
I mean, one possibility is that it's good for people who haven't done much yoga and they actually get a little bit of insight into yoga. But who's to say what kind of yoga teacher is doing yoga and, all the other stuff that goes, one doesn't know. But at least more people are getting involved on the path of self-cultivation on their holidays.
Yeah.
That
I
that
guess
whole thing has
just
changed.
the word retreat maybe should be more protected and understood, because
Yeah.
retreat for me is a place where we also want to really retreat.
Mm.
So maybe one thing should be called yoga holiday or a yoga package, and the other thing
Package,
is
yeah.
an actual retreat.
Yeah, I mean, that was also a question, was what you thought the difference was between a yoga holiday and yoga retreat. Well, you've answered the question. You're right, and it does need to be protected. Um, what about your long-term plans, Malva?
Well, so right now, as I said, it's just come to the point like before I was starting with like 2, 4, 5 retreats. Now it built it up to being 9 retreats in a year.
Mm.
And to be honest, it's almost like one every second month. And in the spaces in between, I really need to hold myself back to not put another one because it's so tempting to sometimes be like, oh, I could still do another one in September or in March. But
Yeah.
I think where I would like to shift also is more definitely to online business as well, because it happens almost after every retreat that people that come and maybe they haven't met me before, they really like the practice, and then they say, okay, where can I practice with you now? Like when I go back to London or where I go back to, I don't know, Toronto, like, do you have a YouTube channel? And I'm always like, no, I don't have nothing. So this is like definitely the next step, but I see that there's a certain resistance inside of me because I personally, for me, practicing with screen is difficult. So
Mm.
I always prefer old school style. I love going to yoga space where it's, like a yoga school. Of course, during COVID, we were not able to do that. So that moment we really realized, okay, well, digital is also what is good. We have that kind of opportunity. Plus practicing with teachers that you maybe not be in a same continent on the same place.
Yeah.
So in that way, it's also interesting option. So I think digital offering, that would be my next thing, and in the future maybe also teacher training again, because I used to do them before I had twins. I just constantly get asked by more like younger clients I have, hey, are you gonna do a teacher training? I'd love to come, but this is such a big work. So I will like to do it. I would love to do it, but I need to really set up a time and just lock myself in 1 week, nail it, and then
1 week.
prepare.
Mm.
Well,
Longer than 1 week.
longer than 1 week. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. To do this, yeah. So that would be the future.
Well, I mean, the online, of course, it's now the opportunity is there, but there is nothing like teaching in person. There really, really isn't. So don't stop that.
Yeah, yeah. No, I would
And
stop that. That is the best. And also for me to go out and to teach and to actually have bodies that you can work
exactly.
with is so important. I see it also when I do this online classes sometimes on Instagram Live. It's so hard to not have like an actual feedback after the
Yeah.
class. You just have this, like a little device in front of you, like, okay, I don't know what's on the other side. I just have to
Mm.
trust, that some of my clients they benefit from it.
Mm. And you're happy in Mallorca?
Yes, very happy in Mallorca. It's been a very good decision since we moved from Barcelona here. It's beautiful here, and what I love about Mallorca is that it's a big enough island for all different types of activities, and it feels very international, despite of the fact that I have more ships around me than people at this point.
Lovely. It's quite
So
nice.
it's like you can see like sheeps and 2 minutes later a five-star hotel and private boats. So it's like all mixed together on this island. It feels very abundant and still very connected to Europe. So literally we have the third biggest airport in Spain, in Mallorca. So you feel
Mm.
like you're well connected. If you need to escape from the island because you get this island fever, we call it here, you always have a chance, and it's very, very easy to take a ferry or to take a plane or whatever, just to take a few moments back on the continent.
Well, if you ever need to come and take a plane, you're very welcome to come and visit.
You
So,
okay.
Malva, look, I mean, it sounds like a beautifully natural, organic progression that you've got going. So, God bless you with all your plans and carry on doing your wonderful work. Thank you for coming to talk to me today.
Thank you so much, Natasha. It's been really, really lovely, and thank you to reach out and to organize this. I'm being super, yeah, humbled also that you invited me. Thank you.
Welcome, very welcome. So I'm going to put Malva's links below. For all of you who have got this far, thank you for watching and listening. I hope it was informative and you could take something away to implement wherever you are on your path. In the next weeks coming up, we have Bhakti, devotion, a bit of history of the movement and the types of practices, Jyotish and Vedic astrology, what it is and how is it useful. I'll be talking to a world champion alpine climber to share her insights in mindset and discipline. Also, a discussion on the guru. This is a panel of us, and we will be looking at how the concept filtered into the West, looking at pros, cons, personal experiences of those who have left such a community. So please stay tuned. Bye for now.